Mountain News this morning, President Biden suspends his 2024 re-election bid as multiple Democrats come together to support his vice president.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News this morning.
Good morning, I'm Madison Carmouche. We're about to come up on 6 a.m. this morning, and it's back. And when I say it, I mean the rain. So let's send it over to meteorologist Tim Drawbridge for a look at your forecast.
I'm sensing a little displeasure this morning about the rain, Madison, but hey, you know what? When you're looking at the next several days and you're advertising no changes in the pattern, you can understand why, right? Mid-60s, it's a wet start, it's a damp start to the day, and visibility because of some fog, as well as the rainfall across the region running slow and low. So take the extra time no matter where you go this morning. Temps basically between 66 now and 70s. We've dropped 2 degrees over at Williamsburg. All right, the pinpoint Doppler radar. This is the area of concern right now. Coming up into Powell County, and it's eventually going to end up getting into northern Breathitt County, as well as make your way toward Rowan County. So for those of you who travel right now, over the next hour on the Mountain Parkway, northwest, southeast, keep in mind once you get into the heavy rain here in the 6 o'clock hour, yeah, you're going to stay in the heavy rain with your travels, so no matter where you end up going to the north and west. All right, toward Inez, Louisa, Pikeville, everything here is departing into West Virginia. And again, better inspection back toward McKee, coming into Stanton and trying to get out of Madison County, where things have lightened up again from Danville back toward Somerset. All right, the planner for today, showers, scattered thunderstorms, the heavy rainfall, obviously a likelihood this morning. Guess what? Got a chance to refire it again with some breaks of sunshine this afternoon, a high up close to 80. More about the First Alert 7-day forecast in this 6 o'clock hour. Madison?
Tim, thank you. President Joe Biden, who for days has been battling COVID, announced Sunday he's ending his re-election bid. The move sent political shockwaves throughout the nation's capital as Biden also endorsed his vice president, Kamala Harris, to become the Democratic Party nominee. CBS's Skylar Henry reports from Washington with reactions and what happens next.
This morning, Vice President Kamala Harris is picking up support, just hours after President Biden announced he will no longer seek re-election. The president tweeted, "It is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term," adding his endorsement of Harris and urging the party to come together to beat former President Donald Trump.
With Joe Biden as the heart and soul of our party and Kamala Harris coming out swinging against this ticket, we've got the recipe for victory.
Harris says it is her intention to earn and win the nomination.
Are you ready to make your voices heard?
She's picked up endorsements from multiple labor organizations and party heavyweights like the Clintons. Vice President Harris is piling up support from members of Congress. The DNC says it will soon implement a framework to select a nominee.
The process needs to be open to anyone else who thinks they can make a strong case that they can prevail in the battleground states, and she'll be the stronger for the contest.
Last night, Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson called on Biden to resign the presidency after bashing plans to replace him.
It would be wrong and I think unlawful in accordance to some of these states' rules for a handful of people to go in a back room and switch it out because they don't like the candidate any longer.
President Biden has been isolating at his Delaware home after testing positive for COVID-19. He'll address the nation later this week. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Washington.
Former President Donald Trump told CBS News the announcement of President Biden's withdrawal came as a shock, and he and his campaign have already begun attacks against Harris, tying her to the president's record. Meanwhile, there are several top Democrats who have not yet endorsed Harris, including former President Barack Obama. A person familiar with the matter tells CBS News he plans to wait until the nominee is official, as he did in 2020. The Republican and Democratic parties of Kentucky both weighed in to give their reaction to Biden's decision to withdraw. In a statement, Coleman Eldridge, the chair of the Kentucky Democratic Party, said in part, quote, President Biden did more than just show up. He got the job done. While Donald Trump and his extremist friends may claim otherwise, one thing is certain. America is a better place because Joe Biden met the moment and never lost sight of who he served, end quote. President Joe Biden announced yesterday he is ending his 2024 presidential re-election campaign. This amidst multiple Democratic leaders calling for President Biden to drop his re-election bid. This morning, we're getting reactions from local leaders on President Biden's decision. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear released a statement on Facebook about the decision. Governor Beshear calls for unity. He said the decision was in the best interest of the country and the Democratic Party. He says in part, quote, President Biden will be remembered as a consequential president. He showed up for Kentucky after devastating tornadoes and historic flooding, delivering immediate federal aid that is helping to rebuild our communities, end quote. After hearing the news that President Joe Biden had withdrawn from the upcoming presidential election, WYMT went out into the community to get the reaction from the mountains. A common reaction among people is surprise and anticipation for what is to come next.
To be honest, I was actually, I don't really know. I was kind of confused about it, but at the same time, I feel like it'd be somewhat good, just try and get someone new in the office. Yeah.
President Joe Biden announced yesterday that he is endorsing Vice President Kamala Harris to be the new Democratic presidential nominee. U.S. Senator Mitch McConnell released a statement regarding President Joe Biden's choice to leave the re-election campaign, criticizing the internal conflict in the Democratic Party. In his statement, U.S. Senator McConnell says, quote, for 4 years, the American people have faced historic inflation at home, chaos at the border, and weak leadership on the world stage. Our nation is less prosperous and less secure than it was in January 2021. We cannot afford 4 more years of failure, end quote. Congressman Hal Rogers also released a statement on President Biden's decision not to run for re-election. In his statement, Rogers says, quote, as Democrats scramble to decide the next step with this historic change of leadership, the Republican Party firmly stands with President Trump and his ability to rescue our country from the failed policies of the Biden administration. Our nation has deeply suffered from crisis after crisis with Biden and Harris at the helm of the destructive Democratic Party. It is time for a clean sweep, starting at the White House, end quote. Meanwhile, the Republican Party of Kentucky tweeted their own response. Their statement reads in part, quote, while we are disappointed that we will not get to see President Trump beat Biden in a rematch, it doesn't matter if the eventual nominee is Kamala Harris or any other Democrat in the country. The energy and momentum behind President Trump and Senator Vance is strong.
Good Monday morning to you. Look at the temperatures this morning. Not too bad. Add in the humidity. Oh, that air is feeling heavy. It's feeling damp. Let's get right to it. The pinpoint Doppler radar. This sticks out like a sore thumb. So does this as we continue to deal with a couple of waves of showers and some thunder showers with Inez to Louisa looking to lose that heavier rainfall. I got this band here starting to set up just to our north here, Hazard. This is tracking up toward the Mountain Parkway, and this is the reason why I said if you've got travel interests back and forth along the Mountain Parkway here as we head through this 6 o'clock hour, once this continues to lift northbound, some of you travel-wise, once you get into the rain, you're going to end up dealing with the rain, some heavier rain too, as this around Boonville comes in toward Stanton and tracks as you make your way toward Rowan County. All right, back to the west. Things are lightening up, and we look at the breakdown for today. Our rain chances do drop off here as we head toward mid-morning. Then they pop right back up as we head through the afternoon as we refire the shower and thunder shower pattern. Any rainfall will have the opportunity to be heavy, and with some breaks of sunshine, we'll get back up close to 80 this afternoon. Any changes? I know. You start to say something like that, you're kind of thinking, All right, is this the way it's going to be most of the week? Details with the First Alert 7-day forecast coming up in just a few moments. Madison?
Thanks, Tim, and thank you for joining Mountain News this morning. More news is on the way. Still to come, a new Kentuckian program is allowing for higher education without the cost.